Turn to John 3. Okay, did I make that easy on you? I found this really killer verse in John 3 that nobody's ever heard before. It's really good. I'm going to be sharing that with you. It's amazing. Little nugget hid there that nobody's ever read in their life, John 3. Matthew, Mark, Luke, Juan, if you have a Spanish Bible. 1, 2, 3, if you know how to count. If you're stuck on 2, ask a friend. John 3 and hold it. Ribbon, bookmark, arm, leg, best friend. Somebody tried spit last night. No, I'm not saying spit anymore. It doesn't work. Don't use the spit. Not good, not good. Okay, John 3 and hold it. Being not ashamed of the gospel means knowing how to find out what the gospel is, the story of Jesus and what it means for you, which is why we talked about getting into this book, because that's where you find out the gospel and what Jesus' story is. The second step would be knowing that story wherever you are, that even if you don't have a Bible with you at a particular point, you would know the gospel message. You would know what it means to be a Christian. You would know why Jesus came to this earth. You would know how much he loves you. You would know what he did for you. You would know where he is right now. You would know how to call on him in times of trouble. Everything that you would need to know for the gospel in that sense is that little bit of what you need to know, that if somebody walked up to you on the street and said, "Why are you a Christian?" you'd be able to rattle off the reasons why, because you know the gospel. And let me tell you, when you're walking around knowing the gospel, knowing that Jesus is there with you, knowing how much he loved you, knowing what he did on a cross for you, you might do some amazing things. If Jesus came to you and said, "I need you to do this," because of that relationship with him, oh, you want me to go talk to that person? Okay, Jesus, let's go. Oh, you want me to be kind to that person even though they're mean to everybody? Okay, Jesus, let's go. Amazing things. He might ask you, there's some stories in the Bible. I might get back to this book again. I know there's a lot of heroes in there, a lot of and heroines that we talked about. Do you know there's some unnamed heroes in there? There's some you and me's in there that did some incredible things. There's some people in there that did some things for Jesus. We don't even know their name. Might as well have been you and me. Might as well have been you two. You know, in Jesus' last days on this earth, his last week, he knew he was going down into the town and he was going to be killed because they didn't understand him, but he was going to leave a lasting memory on the people who did, and it's why we know about him today. And when he had to go down into that town, he needed something to ride on. And so Jesus grabbed 2 guys out of the crowd. And I'm saying they had to be young guys. We don't even know their name. Bible doesn't even mention their name. He just grabs 2 guys, but these guys have to race into the town and do something for Jesus, so I don't think it was old people like me, because they might have had to put off the whole going into the town for another week by the time I came back with what he wanted. So I'm saying he grabbed a couple young guys. We don't know their name. He says, "You 2 guys, come here. Here's what I need you to do. I need you to go into the town, and if you go down a street and over a street, you're going to see a house on the corner with a red roof." How do you know that, Jesus? I just know. And when you find that house, if you look around on the side of it, there's going to be a donkey tied to it. How do you know that, Jesus? I just know. And what I need you guys to do is I need you to take that donkey and bring it back to me so I can ride it into the town. Jesus, are you asking us to steal a donkey? You know, there's such a thing as grand theft donkey, and it's not really well liked in the area. Back then, if you stole somebody's donkey, you could be imprisoned for life, or you could have your hands cut off. It was your choice. Jesus, I kind of like it when I wave at somebody. They know I'm waving. I don't think I'm stealing no donkey. Can you see the people around him saying to these guys over there, "Don't listen to him. Don't put yourself in trouble. Don't do this." Well, these 2 guys, we don't know them by name, might as well have been you and me. I don't know if it was something in Jesus' voice or the look in his eye. All I know is 2 guys were heading for town. And they race into town, and they go down a street and over a street, and one goes, "Ah, what? House, red roof. Oh my gosh. You stay here. I'm going to go peek around the side of the house. But if there's a donkey tied to it, I'm going to freak out." And you walk there. What? Donkey! What do we do now? We go do now. What do we can't take that donkey. Jesus had told him, don't worry. Don't worry. If somebody catches you taking the donkey, you just look them right in the eye and say, the Lord needs your donkey, and everything will be fine. Do you think he meant that? I don't know. You're going to take this donkey? I don't know. You take it. I'm not going to take it. You take it. Okay, we take it together. Okay, let's go. They go over and they untie the donkey. Come on, little donkey. Let's go, little donkey. Shh, quiet, little, because donkeys are so cooperative. Come on, little donkey. And they get this donkey starting to walk, and they get it out, and they're in front of the guy's house. Come on, little donkey. Come on, little donkey. They're just about out of the way, and all of a sudden they hear, hey, where are you going with my donkey? You tell him. I'm not going to tell him. You tell. Okay, we tell him together. Okay. Sir, the Lord needs your donkey. Oh, okay. Tell him I said hi. And they take off with the donkey, and they bring it back, and Jesus gets to ride into the town, this triumphal entry where people are waving palm branches and shouting, Hosanna, King of Kings, and this big move into the city. Why? Because two guys, we don't even know them by name, did the unthinkable just because Jesus asked them, because they were in the presence of Jesus. Make sure every day when you leave your house, you have spent enough time talking to him, reading about him, knowing his gospel, knowing what he did, that you feel like I'm in the presence of Jesus. Because if you're walking on your campus and Jesus says, I need you to do something for me, you just might go, and go do it. That's what we're talking about, getting in the game. That's what we talked about, playing ball. Jesus just needs you to show up sometimes. He's got some amazing things. You want to be a world changer? Show up in your school knowing Jesus is there with you, knowing what he did on a cross for you, looking at people with kindness and love instead of other thoughts. And watch Jesus whisper in your ear, I'm going to need you to do the unthinkable. You know, when I get to heaven, there's going to be probably a big line to see Paul and a big line to see Peter. You know what I'm doing? Where are the donkey guys? Where are the donkey guys? I have got to talk to the donkey guys because I want to look at him and say, was it the look in his eye? Tell me, was it the sound of his voice? What is it about that guy up there that made you do the unthinkable? What made you get in the game? What made you unashamed of him? I got to know. And then I'm going to look for you. I'm going to say, hey, where are those kids? What was it? Was it the look in his eye? Was it the sound of his voice? When you prayed to him, did you feel his presence? What got you here? What got you here? I got to know. I got to know. Think about what it would take to do the unthinkable. They say the best offense is a good defense. And what that basically means is if you're going to head down a path following a hero like Jesus, there's going to be villains along the way. So in your studying of the gospel and knowing everything Jesus did for you, you kind of got to know what the adversary's up to too, so you don't get tricked by him. The Bible says Satan is the author of lies, and he's a great deceiver. So he might try and play that voice that tells you to do something, try and convince you even that it might be godly. And you've got to know the gospel so well that the minute it goes left or right of the gospel, you think, wait a minute, that's not the voice. That's not the right voice. You got to know. You know, when a boxer fights another guy, he studies that other guy. He knows all of his tendencies. He knows his best punch, what he does in defense, so that when he goes in and fights him, he knows, looking at him, where his weaknesses are. That's how we go about our faith. When a pitcher gets on the mound in a pro game, every batter that comes up to bat, he has studied completely. He knows exactly what pitches they like and don't like. He knows the best pitches to throw to possibly get them out. He has studied his opponent so well that he can throw with more confidence pitches that he thinks there's a less chance. So that's what we have to do. We got to make sure we know the gospel so well that we recognize the good and we recognize the bad. And sometimes there's going to be struggling matches. I remember my dad, when I was a kid, there were 4 of us kids. He got a job that started at 3 a.m. in the morning. And when you're a kid, you're like, Dad, 3 a.m., get a better job. We didn't realize he's providing a house and food and everything for us. It was just like a bad situation. You could use a better job, Dad. And he would come home about 12 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and he would want to sleep till dinner at 5. And the way he would rest and relax for those few hours after working hard all day is he would go out in the living room, and he'd take a bunch of records and put them on the stereo. If you don't know what records are, they're these big CD. Well, now they're coming back. Vinyl. Yeah, cool, vinyl. Okay. He'd put about 5 or 6 of them on the record, on the stereo, and start it, and then he'd lay on his back and put headphones on and fall asleep to all of this music. And we'd come home about 3 o'clock from school, and we'd look in and see my dad laying in the living room with the headphones on, not moving, and by how my dad was shaped, he kind of looked like a mountain. Kind of a mountain. Just like me, we have that shape. Must be our broad shoulders. We look like a mountain when we're laying on our back. And my brother gets us all down at the end of the hall. He has this great idea. Let's attack the mountain. What? We attack the mountain. We sneak our way down there. On the count of 3, we just jump him. We're like, all right, 4 of us against 1 guy sleeping, no problem. So we get down to the far room. It's like, okay, every 15 seconds we go to a different room. Okay. Still sleeping. Somebody flushes the toilet. Still sleeping. Into the kitchen. All right, on the count of 3, we hit him. 1, 2, 3. 4 of us run, and we dive on him. And in 2 seconds, he's got 2 of us in scissors between his legs, 1 in the head giving noogies, and 1 of us in the corner going, don't touch me, don't touch me, don't touch me. And I'm usually the one in the corner going, don't touch me, don't touch me, don't touch me. We wrestle around for a little bit, miraculously escape, and run down to the end of the hall saying, we'll never do that again, right? Let's go. Attack the mountain. The problem was we never got together and said, how do we defeat this guy? Maybe we should have a strategy. You know, there's 4 of us. If everybody grabbed a leg and an arm, he can't do anything. You know, no, we didn't even think of that. It was just all go attack the mountain, and the mountain kept winning. It's kind of like that with your faith. If you don't understand how the adversary's playing, if you don't understand your opponent and recognize his lies, you may buy into one. Nobody's going to miss that $5 right there. That's not mine. I don't think anybody's going to miss it. A voice in your head's going to go, nobody's going to miss that. And so some of us take that $5. It's not ours. You see, at a certain point, you got to wait a whoa, 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 whoa. Better to give than to receive. Whoa, 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 whoa. Thou shalt not steal. Whoa, think of others as more important than yourself. That ain't the right voice. Hey, that's not the right voice. You got to know this gospel. And you got to know when somebody's trying to present to you a different gospel. And what do you get out of it? Look at John 3. Excuse me. I did that right into the mic. I'm actually putting my glasses on to read John 3:16 because I'm going to need a little help here. Okay. How many people know John 3:16? Here's what I want you to know. It's probably the most written sentence in the history of the world. This sentence has been written, repeated more than any sentence ever in the history of the entire earth. And I want you to know it was written by a fisherman, an unschooled, untrained man who happened to be in the presence of Jesus when he said some amazing things, and he decided to write it down. And the reason I believe it's the most kid-friendly verse ever written and the most kid-friendly sentence ever written in all of history is because in just one sentence, it tells you everything you need to know about the gospel. So if you tell me this whole gospel thing is too much, I can get it down to one sentence. For God so loved the world. Does God love me? Yes. That he sent his only son. Does he love me? Yes. What do I need to do? If I believe in him, can I do that? Yes. What do I get out of it? I get to live forever. Not a bad deal. Let me tell you something. If you walked up to a friend of yours, and I know we've heard that verse over and over and over again. If you walked up to a friend of yours and had never heard it and said, let me tell you something. Because God loved you so much, he asked his only son to come down to this earth and die a horrible death. That if you can believe he came out of a tomb and lives forever, you get to live forever. You know what some of those friends would say? Whoa, how come you never told me that before? How long have you known that? How long have you known that? How come you're just telling me now? You have known that for a while? You would know how to live forever? You know about a place where I'm not going to hurt? You know about a place where there's streets of gold? How long have you known that? And why are you just telling me now? Because I went to a camp and I decided to get in the game. And I decided to not care what people thought about me anymore. I care what he thinks about me. And I'm not going to be ashamed to tell you that I'm going to do everything I can to live forever. And man, I'd like to see you there with me, living forever too. For God so loved the world that he sent and gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. Verse 17, for God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. I need saved. You need saved. Your friends need saved. We all need saved. If you feel like you're saved and you know somebody that's not saved, what else would you do the next time you saw them but do anything you can to get them saved? That's what it means to be not ashamed of this gospel. That's what it means to be in the game, not just talking and showing up on Sunday and midweek. It's showing up on Monday and Tuesday and all the days that you're around believers and non-believers who need to hear the gospel of Jesus come out of you like little David's unashamed. Otherwise, we all just wasted a week at camp. What'd you learn at camp? Great water slide. You missed it. You missed a great week. What'd you do at camp? I learned to get in the game, and they had a great water slide. You got it. You got it. Trust me, I can get all the leaders of this camp together and ask them if they built this camp because of the water slide, and they would all say no. Can't find water slide in the gospel. We'll just throw it in as an extra. Don't leave here with memories of the water slide before you leave here with memories of what your relationship with Jesus and yours is going to change to when you leave here. And don't let that deceiver get you. When I was 10 years old, out behind our housing track was this swamp. Big old swamp, great swamp. Girls, I don't know about you, but guys, cool swamp, everything you want in a swamp. Up above that swamp was this giant dirt hill about 200 feet high on a sharp angle. And if you were any kind of a bike rider, you had to be able to ride your bike down this hill and live to tell about it. It had names like Dead Man's Hill, Suicide Hill. Some people just called it the Monster. Big old hill. And many tried, but not many made it. The hardest part about riding your bike down this hill was when you got to the bottom, going faster on your bike than you've ever gone before, you had to be able to turn your bike at 90 degrees and put it on this little small path at the bottom of the hill. 90-degree turn on this little path, because if you didn't hit that little path, on the other side of it was this place the swamp had grown out, this big, gooey, black, tarish, nasty, bubbling, smelled like tuna, been in the sun too long, nastiness that we called frog finger, because it looked like a finger sticking out of the swamp, and only frogs and stuff could live in it. We were told as kids, if you ever went into frog finger, you were never heard from again. And as a kid, we believe everything, right? Don't go near frog finger. The parts of bike sticking up out of it. If we didn't see a kid for more than 3 days, anybody seen Billy? No. Oh, no. Frog finger has claimed another victim. No, stay away from frog finger. Well, there was this kid, a friend of mine who was 10. His name was Eddie. And Eddie was an incredible bike rider. In fact, at 5 years old, he had already been riding motorcycles in little competitions. So at 10 on a bike, he was king. And he grabs a few of us. He goes, hey, I got to show you something at the hill. Come with me. So I get on my bike. A few of us were like, yeah, I want to see what Eddie's got going on the hill. And we ride. We get to the top of the hill. I think it was the first time I was ever on the top of this hill looking down. Incredible. You could see the whole valley. The wind was blowing. There was the swamp. And there it was. Frog finger. Bubbling. I think I heard it say, come to the dark side. No, stay away from me, I'm scared up here. All of a sudden, Eddie takes his bike and takes off down the hill. Just starts pedaling, he's going fast, he's flying down the hill. I go, he's a dead man. Guys, get out some paper. Eddie has brought us here to watch him die. We're going to record the death of Eddie. He has decided to kill himself right here on this hill with us as witnesses. What are you doing, Eddie? He gets about halfway down the hill. He's going faster on a bike than any kid I've ever seen in my life. He's bouncing a little bit, but all of a sudden, about halfway down, he just starts willing his bike to turn. He's fighting gravity, G-forces. I can't even believe what I'm seeing, but all of a sudden, he's getting his bike to start to turn. And then at the very last second, he takes his bike and turns and puts it right on that path at the last second. And we're just cheering. It's the most incredible thing I've ever seen on a bike. I'm like, Eddie, you're awesome. That was great. He looks up and he yells, that's not what I came to show you. Watch this. We don't know what he's talking about. He gets off his bike and he goes in these tall bushes and he drags out this big old rusty oil barrel, big old yellow rusty thing, big old barrel, and he sets it on the path. Then he goes back in the bushes and drags out this plank of wood he's found and puts one half of the wood on the barrel. Now we're way up high, but it almost looks like he's made this ramp pointing right at Frog Finger. It can't be. What are you doing, Daddy? A little round. It's got to be 15 feet across. What's going on? He pushes his bike up the hill, comes over to us, gives us that look like, you know, that look of the only guy that knows what's going on, because he was. He goes, this is what I came to show you. And he takes off down the hill again before we can grab him. We're like, oh, there goes a good friend. He's flying down this hill, going faster than he was the first time. He gets halfway down. We're yelling, you got to turn, Eddie, you got to turn. He's not turning. We're yelling, turn, Eddie, turn. He's not turning. He goes straight ahead, and he hits this ramp, and it launches him into the air, like 30 or 40 feet in the air. Okay, I was 10, but he was way up high. And he goes over Frog Finger and lands safe on the other side. Now I'm actually hugging the guy. Guys, we don't hug a lot, but I'm hugging the guy next to me. I can't believe we got to see that, Eddie. You're the greatest bike rider. Eddie, Eddie, Eddie. He comes back to the edge and he yells up, okay, who's next? Oh, no. Not me. I'm thinking fast. I look at my friend Henry. I go, Henry, I've never told you this before, but I happen to think you're about the second best bike rider in the city. And if anybody else could make this jump, Henry, you're the man. Henry looks at me and goes, oh, do you think so? And I was like, oh, yeah. And then I give him one of these. Yeah. And under my breath, I said, nice knowing you, because I knew it was going to happen. So he gets up there, and he's thinking about it. He's literally thinking about it. And what Henry needed right then was a good friend that had his well-being in mind. But unfortunately for Henry, he had me. So he looks over one last time, and I give him the yeah. And believe it or not, Henry goes. And Henry starts picking up speed, even trying to ride his brake. The bike takes over, and his feet starts going. He's like, what am I doing? He's flying down this hill. He's bouncing all over the place. He's looking for the ramp. He's bouncing so much, he sees like 6 of them. He's like, which one's the right one? What am I going to do? I don't want to do this ramp. I don't want to be on this hill. I got to find that path. Oh, where's that path? Where's the path? Oh, he's little, right into Frog Finger, which we realized you can live from because he crawled out. But he had turned completely green, and he smelled nasty for like 2 weeks. Even nasty for Henry, smelled nasty. It's just me and my friend Richie. I'm running out of friends. I go, Richie, you know, your bike alone could make this jump. Because he did have, his dad owned the bike shop in town, so he had the coolest bike with all the stuff and the raccoon tail and the whole deck of car. I go, the bike alone, the bike by itself could make this jump, Richie. All you got to do is be sitting on it for the glory. He says, do you think so? I'm like, oh, yeah. And he believes me. So he gets up there, gives me that look, and I give him one of these. Yeah. I kind of said, say hi to Henry, but I knew it was about to happen. And he goes. And he gets about 10 feet and starts picking up speed, and he says, I'm not doing this. He does the number one thing you don't do in the middle of doing Suicide Hill. He locked up both of his brakes, which sent him flying over his handlebars. And then he did the number two thing you don't do in the middle of doing Suicide Hill. He put out his hands to break his fall, which broke both of his arms instantly, and he rolled up on the hill. And I was thinking about doing the hill, but my friend, Richie, was hurt. So I skidded down the hill the best I could to make sure first his bike was okay, because that's a great bike. Oh no, Richie, yeah, got to take care of Richie. Richie and Henry kind of limp off. And I'm sitting there thinking, I almost tried this. I almost killed myself because of that guy down there. And then I went down, and I said, Eddie, you got to tell me something. You got to tell me something. How did you possibly know that ramp had enough to get you across? I got to know, Eddie, how would you risk it all? How did you know that that ramp had enough to get you across Frog Finger? He said, Keith, it's a secret. And I'm going to tell you that secret. And it's going to be the secret that helps you jump Frog Finger today. And I looked at him, and you know what I said? You'll find out tonight. I will tell you why I told you that story tonight. You will understand why it makes sense. We're going to bring the band up, and we're going to sing one more song worshiping God. But today, if you don't fully, if I can have your attention, don't move yet. There will be enough floor for everyone. Hey, if you don't know completely the gospel of Jesus, you can start with John 3:16 and 17, but get together and make sure you have a better understanding of what that is, because there's a lot of ramps out there in this world, and we want to make sure you're aiming at the right one. I'll see you tonight and give you some answers.